I know I'm probably stating the obvious here, but Syracuse football, they're going to need to score a ton of points to beat Miami.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here in the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And folks, on this week's Poll Friday, yes, we are back to having Poll Fridays on Friday. Thank you, schedule makers. I asked you guys the question, how many points is Syracuse football going to need to score to upset the Miami Hurricanes tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern inside the Dome? And the reason why I asked you guys this question is simple. Miami has the best offense in college football. No, that is not exaggeration. That is not hyperbole. That is a matter of fact. They have statistically the best offense in the nation. They are number one in total offense, which means they gain more yards per game than anyone else. And for those that don't care about that, hey, it doesn't matter how many yards a team gets, right? It's all about scoring points. Well, the Miami Hurricanes average more points than anyone in the nation as well at nearly 45 per game, which is just absolutely ridiculous. They're number 3 in passing offense. They got an above average rushing offense, which, by the way, they average over 5.5 yards per carry as a team. That's pretty good, if you ask me. Basically, Miami can score, and they will score tomorrow against Syracuse. Their lowest point total this season is 23 points against Georgia Tech. Now, that was just a couple of weeks ago, right? That wasn't very long ago when Miami put up 23 against Georgia Tech. So maybe that gives us a little bit of hope, except that's more of the outlier for Miami. If you take a look at their schedule, I believe, if my eyes were correct in terms of looking at their actual schedule and their point totals, their next lowest output is 36 points, which came against Florida State of all teams. I guess Florida State for once decided to try to play up to its ability, and yet they still got creamed, and Miami put up 36 points in that game. They got Cam Ward, Heisman hopeful quarterback. They got 3 awesome running backs. They got many different pass catchers that can beat Syracuse. So in order for the Orange to win this game and actually pull off this upset, which right now they're 11.5-point underdogs, they're going to need to score a lot of points. There's a reason why on the crossover episode earlier today I did with the host of Locked On Canes, Alex Dono, which, by the way, if you missed it, be sure to check it out after this podcast. There's a reason why I picked Miami to win 45-35. They're going to score a ton of points. And I believe Syracuse football needs to put up at least 40 in order to upset Miami. Here are the poll results, by the way. There were over 200 votes this week, and the winner actually disagreed with me on this one. The winner was between 30 and 39 points that Syracuse would need to score, which was at well over 50%. It was at 57%. 40 plus, which is where I'm at, was in the mid 30s or about 35%. 20 to 29 points was at 8%, and less than 20 points, I mean, that's not going to happen, was less than 1%. So the poll results reflected what most people believe, which is that I highly doubt Syracuse football can win a game 17-14 against Miami. Don't get me wrong, I'll certainly take it, but I highly doubt that happens. I could see upper 30s if everything goes according to plan. Like, could I see Syracuse winning this game 38-34? Sure, I could see that. But I'm with the 30-ish% of you guys. I think that for Syracuse to actually pull off this upset, they're going to need to score at least 40. I mean, if you look at Miami's averages, they average 45 a game. So what does that mean? You're probably going to have to score 46 in order to actually beat this team. And for what it's worth, Syracuse has only scored 40-plus points one time this season, which came against UNLV. I'm not saying the Syracuse offense is bad or anything. I just wanted to point that out, that that's probably what's going to take. They're going to need to do something they've only done once this year, which is score at least 40 points in order for Miami to win. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comment section below. How many points does Syracuse need to realistically score to actually beat Miami? I say 40 plus. A lot of you guys say at least 30 to 39. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Coming up, more keys of how Syracuse football could potentially pull off an upset, which go in line with how many points they actually need to score to win. Folks, I know we're talking a lot of football, right? Syracuse and Miami, but in case you don't know, basketball season has also started, whether it's the NBA, college, Syracuse basketball. Going to games is always typically exciting, especially Syracuse, because they'll play up to competition and they'll play down to competition. So it's always exciting no matter what. The way I get tickets for games is by using Gametime. Gametime is a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And my favorite feature is the curated deals. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc., whatever you want. Just take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app and create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL or anything for that matter, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I talked about Syracuse football now being an 11.5-point underdog at home against Miami tomorrow. The money line has also moved to plus 320. Miami opened as a 10.5-point favorite. The money line was at plus 300 for Syracuse to pull off an upset. So a lot of the money right now is going to the Canes. For better or for worse, if you're a Syracuse fan and you think the Orange can actually pull off an upset, well, now you got even better odds. You got more points, and the money line's at plus 320. What do you think of those odds? Well, you be the judge of that. You just got to visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I'm Jackson Holzer. This is Locked On Syracuse. And once again, this is Poll Friday, where I asked you guys the question, how many points does Syracuse actually need to score to beat Miami? I say 40 plus. The majority of you guys think it'll be 30 and 39 points, so anywhere in that range. Here's how Syracuse actually can pull off the upset, okay? I've already given my keys to the game, but this is just a further explanation of it. Both teams have the highest time of possession on average in the ACC. But as I stated in the crossover episode with Alex Dono, the host of Locked On Canes, earlier today, I don't think winning the time of possession, although it would certainly be helpful for Syracuse, I don't think it's a necessity for the Orange to actually win it in order to pull off an upset. Here's why. Let's go back to one of the big scares that Miami has actually had this season. They've had a few, but this is probably the biggest one, which is the Cal game, okay? Against Cal this season, which, by the way, Cal should have won. They had a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter and somehow blew the game. Let's talk about that one, okay? In that game, Miami had the ball for 37 minutes, and they outgained Cal by over 200 yards. Think about that for a second here. There's a lot of talk about, hey, let's win the time of possession. Let's establish a running game. Well, Cal should have won. They had a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter, and they blew it. Yet, Miami had the ball for nearly 2/3 of the game and outgained Cal by 200 yards. So that is not a requirement, in my opinion, for Syracuse to win. I don't think they have to outgain Miami, and I don't think they have to have the ball more than Miami to win. How did Cal nearly pull off the upset? Well, they got a couple big plays on offense. They had 2 offensive touchdowns, I believe, go for over 50 yards. So that works. You can have big plays on offense in order to win. They also scored on defense. This is another key for Syracuse here. Noah Williams had a pick 6 in that game. If Syracuse can score a defensive touchdown, that works too. Like if Miami decides, hey, let's drive the ball all the way to Syracuse's 1-yard line, but Cam Ward throws a pick six at the Syracuse 1. So someone on Syracuse returns it 100 yards. That'll work. I think we'll all take that. That's not winning time of possession. That's not outgaining your opponent. I don't think they necessarily have to do that. I don't. I think they do need to probably score on offense or on defense, something that the Orange have only done once this year, and that came against Holy Cross for what it's worth. But those are kind of that's my take on this. It's going to take at least 40 plus in order for Syracuse to win. They probably will need to score a defensive touchdown. And most importantly, you got to win the turnover margin by 2. It goes in line with what I said just a moment ago. If Miami controls the clock and they control the game for the most part, but Cam Ward throws a pick in the red zone, how about that? That works. That's an avenue for an upset. So I don't think necessarily the keys are time of possession or outgain Miami, establish a run game. No. Win the turnover margin by 2, perhaps score a defensive touchdown, score 40-plus points, and you definitely have a good chance of winning the game. If you don't do those things, it's probably unlikely that Syracuse pulls off an upset. There's a reason why Miami is on the road, and they're a double-digit favorite. They're a very good team, guys. This is going to be a very difficult game for Syracuse to win. I sincerely hope they win. I'm a Syracuse alum. I'm a Syracuse fan. I bleed orange. I guess this shade of orange, I should say. This shade, not the Miami shade. But it's going to take a lot. And in my opinion, I think it's going to take 40 plus. I think it might take a defensive touchdown and winning that turnover margin by 2 plus in order for Syracuse to actually pull off this upset. So that's it for this week's Poll Friday. I would love to hear your thoughts on how many points Syracuse actually needs to score to win this game. As far as what's coming up on the podcast, well, I think we all know what's coming, right? Because tomorrow, we've talked a lot of Syracuse and Miami. In the buildup of this game, it's so exciting. Miami must win in order to clinch an ACC title. This is a big game also for recruiting. I believe Calvin Russell, a 5-star in 2026, he's going to be in attendance, and his top 2 schools, at least according to 24/7 Sports, are Syracuse and Miami. This is a huge game. And guess what? The game is tomorrow. 3:30 p.m. Eastern inside the Dome. And folks, there's going to be a post-game reaction podcast. Win or lose, I guess potentially a draw, which doesn't really exist anymore in college football. But win or lose, I will be here on Locked On Syracuse to give you guys my post-game reaction thoughts. And then going forward, we'll see. Maybe we'll talk more about Syracuse and Miami depending on how the game goes. But then, yes, I know Syracuse is still is playing. They qualified for a bowl game. Congratulations to them. But it's off-season time at that point. So there's plenty of podcasts coming up going over Syracuse football's off-season objectives. So that's coming up later, okay? The big thing you need to know is that Locked On Syracuse, there will be a post-game reaction podcast for Syracuse and Miami. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. If you really liked it, subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next podcast. Spoiler alert, after the game tomorrow for Syracuse, right? Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. I will see you all tomorrow post-game.